Good evening, Rotorua. Tonight on City News. Rotorua District Councillor and iwi Relationships Portfolio Lead, Meripekaro Kawa-Tate, says work on new models for consultation with Te Arawa should be over by Christmas. New speed and parking rules will come into effect next month. And Ko Te Tuara Totara o Fordlands focused on child services at this week's Community Open Day. Rotorua District Councillor and iwi Relationships Portfolio Lead, Meripekaro Kawa-Tate, says she expects consultation work being done on models to best represent iwi should be decided by Christmas. She says matters are complex and drawn out, and she wants to ensure iwi are widely consulted.
Well, it's been a little bit of a long drawn-out process because, as you know, we used to have this Te Arawa Standing Committee and they provided good advice to Council, but there was a call to renew that and see again, you know, after 20 years, is this how the relationship should be, or could we provide better advice in a different way? And so there have been a couple of models that have been developed, and now those are now going out to consultation with the iwi so we can get some feedback. As a result of the consultation, they could change, and hopefully before Christmas there will be a recommendation from that working group back to Council to say, hey, listen, this is how Te Arawa can have a far more meaningful relationship with the Council, and this is where Te Arawa believes that they could give some good input, some good advice, and I think that's going to be quite exciting as well.
Speed along Fenton Street is to be reduced to 50 kilometres per hour from 60 kilometres per hour after residents complained, and the Rotorua Association of Motels also supported the speed reduction. Speed along Tarawera Road as well as Otamarai Road, Wharanui Road and Hamarana Road will also be reduced. Tarawera and Hamarana will have speed cut in half to 50 kilometres per hour. The new speed limits are expected to come into effect by the end of November once new signage is installed. And the free 2-hour parking limit is to end in the CBD. Under the current trial, free parking is permitted for 2 hours, but this is to be reduced to 1 hour along Tūtanakai Street and 90 minutes in adjacent side streets. The changes to free parking limits are expected to become operational from around mid-November and will be in force until next June, when a council review will be conducted. Ko Te Tuara Totara o Fordlands Community Group held an open day this week to highlight children's services in the community. Group President Mani Flavel says the centre is a drop-in centre for all ages in the community and provides advice, information and support for the people.
This is more for the younger rangatahi or tamariki that are preschool, I suppose, early childhood, through one of our people that work with me on the committee, Gina Royal. She's organised a day, this day more for the rangatahi, so they can get to know other departments and other foundations from around Rotorua, especially in this area, so we can once again strengthen the backbone of Fordlands.
And what's the feedback that you've had from the locals?
It's been actually good feedback in regards to these type of days, because it's showing that we care, that we're trying to do something, and it's part of our strategic plan to get out there and get the community back together again.
In sport tonight, keen anglers are already recording record catches in Rotorua lakes, and the season is only just weeks in. Fish and Game Officer Matt Osborne says great weather and water conditions made for good spawning, resulting in a bumper trout fishing season.
We have 3 lakes that close over the winter period for 3 months, and they open on the 1st of October to boat fishing, so it's a pretty important time for us. We've had a pretty good winter. It's been nice and warm. Trout generally grow best, rainbow trout, between sort of 15 to 18 degrees. So when we have water conditions in that range, the growth is very good. So we're seeing some nice condition fish this opening day.
And we have more from Matt Osborne straight after the City News. To your weather update now. Tonight will be fine with northeasterlies and an overnight low of 10. Tomorrow Friday, cloud increasing with late drizzle, northerlies a high of 16 and a low of 12. And looking out to Saturday, rain with northwesterlies, a high of 16 and a low of 11. And the marine forecast for Lake Rotorua for Friday, Northerly 10 knots rising to 15 knots in the afternoon, with waves less than half a metre, mostly cloudy with poor visibility and drizzle at times, mainly in the evening. Remember, for program listings and other info, check out our website tv.rotorua.co.nz, or you can look us up on Facebook. Still to come in tonight's program, we're at Fish and Game to talk with Officer Matt Osborne about the trout fishing season. We meet Rotary Youth Director Todd Mountford, and we catch up with Egerton Race Director Rob Doherty.
City News has popped out to the trout hatchery to catch up with Matt Osborne about the current season and how it's all going. Thanks for having us, Matt.
Thank you.
So, when did the season start?
Well, the season generally goes year-round throughout New Zealand. The new licences come on sale from 1st October, so that's officially the start of the new season. In Rotorua here, in the eastern region, Fish and Game, we have 3 lakes that close over the winter period for 3 months, and they open on the 1st of October to boat fishing, so it's a pretty important time for us.
Was there a ceremony with that?
It's a very traditional thing going on those 3 lakes. At Lake Tarawera, there's a piping of the haggis ceremony that goes on each year on the evening prior to the opening, which is very well received.
What's piping of the haggis?
So the Rotorua Pipe Band walks down the hill to the landing at Lake Tarawera, and generally it's a festival to open it. Like I say, it's a traditional thing that happens at Tarawera.
Oh, so it's very official. So, are there any locations apart from the lakes that are actually really good for fishing?
It depends on time of year and the food sources available in those areas. There's a lot of places people head to for the opening. So some people are back river enthusiasts going to the likes of the Ruakaturi, Hangaroa, just generally anywhere they like to go. It's a great time.
Do you have any fishing tips?
Early season on the lakes, shallow trolling's the way to go, so fish are higher in the water column. As the summer comes on, fish go deeper as well. So deeper methods, jigging, deep trolling come into play. Morning and evening, fish are also higher in the water column, so people have more success fishing shallower. When the light comes on the water, fish go deeper, so it's a matter of changing your methods throughout the day just to meet what's going on.
And so how does our current climate affect fishing?
We've had a pretty good winter. It's been nice and warm. Trout generally grow best, rainbow trout, between sort of 15 to 18 degrees. So when we have water conditions in that range, the growth is very good. So we're seeing some nice condition fish this opening day.
And what do you attribute to the success of any angler that's out there?
Persistence. You've got to put in the time to catch fish, so it's not as simple as just turning up all the time. And fishing the methods that are working, so where the trout are present. So again, morning and evening, if they're higher in the water column, you don't want to be too deep. And during the mid part of the day, you've got to find where those fish are, so using technology such as your depth sounders can really help.
Wow. What are the fish numbers like this year?
We've had very good catch rates on Tarawera, Okataina and Rotorua, so above the average catch rates in harvest for opening, which is very pleasing. So people have a very good opportunity to go out there and catch fish.
Let's talk about the impact poaching has on the season.
Poaching, mainly in that winter period where people are up spawning streams, disturbing spawning fish, taking spawning fish, and also walking through redds. So that's the nest of eggs that fish make on the bottom of the stream. They have a definite impact in future years. So you're not so much impacting the current year's angling, but in a year or two's time, when those fish would be hatched out and growing, that's the impact that you get to see.
What's the importance in obtaining a fishing licence?
Fishing licences pay for everything that we do. All that money goes back into the fishery, so it's very important that if people are coming to fish, that they do get a licence, because our hatchery facility here, we release 90,000 fish into the Rotorua lakes every year, and each of those fish costs about $3 to get into the lake. So when we're putting out 15,000 fish, that's a lot of money going into one particular lake.
Is Lake Rotorua a good place to fish, or is it not a good place to fish? How do we view that lake? It's
a very good place to fish. It's probably got the highest catch rates of any of the lakes around. Currently, the water condition, the water clarity and water quality is very good in Rotorua, and producing some very good fish. It went through a few lean years, but in the last year and a half, we've seen the trout really come on again. Good prey densities of the smelt they feed on, and the trout are in very good condition.
So for someone who is looking at starting, that might be a good place for them to start, really, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. There's good shoreline spin fishing, which is very easy for children to get into, and also fly angling. And when the summer really develops, there's areas like the Awaho stream mouth and Hamarana that trout flock to as the lake warms. So they're very cold water refuge areas for those trout to move into, and we can get some very, very high catch rates.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. There you have it, a new recreation for yourself and your family. You can only go as far as Lake Rotorua to have a good fish. Thanks. It's so hard in this time in order to have a job, a family, and then to give back to the community. But there are those individuals here that do that. I'd like to introduce to you a man of his word, Todd Mountfort. Todd, you are a busy individual, aren't you?
Yeah, good morning, Mel. Yeah, pretty busy, but Rotorua is an amazing place, and we're blessed by our surroundings, so it's good to give back.
Yeah. So in your professional career, what is it that you do?
I'm an insurance broker. People have all sorts of views on what that means, but in reality we help individuals from personals through to corporates. We do a lot with the local iwi, and it's all about risk management. What can we do to help them mitigate the potential for loss, and then make sure they've got products in the background that will help them out in the event that something does go wrong. But it's a great job, gets you out in the community and amongst a heap of different people from all different walks of life, and I really enjoy it.
So what is the main projects that the Youth Committee do for the Rotorua community?
Yeah, well, it's exciting times ahead. We've got, other than the fact that our club, each club is aligned to a secondary school in Rotorua. So we've got Rotorua Boys High, which is an amazing school with a very proud heritage as well. And we help them out with things like Interact, which is a Rotary for the students. So they basically, it gives them the values of making their school into their own community, and what can they do and what can they give back to make their school a better place, and how can they promote the great things that are going on in their school out in the community. So that's what Interact does, and we support them in what they're doing. We send, scholastically, we send children that have, a passion for science to National Science School once a year. There's Outward Bound, there's a heap of different courses that we can send students on. And I guess our key one that's coming up is the Rotary program, Rotary Youth Program for Enrichment, RIPEN. And we run that once a year, and that's a joint clubs project. And that's just an incredible opportunity, not only for Rotary to work together, but we take 50 students from Rotorua, from all the colleges, and basically give them 3 days of intense life skills, making good decisions, great leadership, learn about themselves, self-development, and it's just an incredible weekend. So we've got that coming up end of October, 30th of October, through to the 2nd of November, so we're all getting pretty excited about that. Yeah.
And so who helps out with that? Is it just you yourself, or are there other clubs involved?
Yeah, well, it's like I said, it's a great joint clubs initiative. I've been the coordinator for 4 years, and we get all of the clubs supply the people power. We're pretty protective about the sorts of attitudes and the sorts of Rotarians, if you like, that we want to go in Raipen, because it's about giving the students a really positive, some really positive contact with some adults in the community, that they can kind of beyond Raipen can come back and maybe give a call if they need some help about something. And also we have Rotaract involved, which is the 24 to 30-year-old Rotarians, and that just helps us bridge that generational gap between us grey tops and the youth, which we're really trying to get through to them. And it's an incredible weekend. And
so why is a weekend like this important? What does it do for these students?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think if you've been involved in the weekend, which you have, it's just an incredible journey of not only them discovering new things about themselves, but also rediscovering the power of teamwork. So we put them, we break them up into 2 teams, Rotorua and Tarawera. And then that becomes their whānau for the weekend, and they look after each other. And it's really surprising the journey that you see them going on. Those that are introverted, a little bit quiet, a little bit shy on the first day, quite often, more often than not, actually become the true leaders in their team on the 3rd day. And the ones that have been the outwardly spoken ones, they're generally still outwardly spoken, but they're more accepting of knowing that those people can help them achieve more as well. So yeah, I guess, and where do they go from there? Well, I guess like any opportunity in life, it's up to them what they grab with it. But we hear some great stories every year about students that go back into the school environment and achieve at another level that they hadn't achieved at before. And certainly our boys, our Rotorua boys, we've had some great stories out of them and things that they've gone on to be part of, or they've gone back to school and said to their Year 10 Dean, Mike Green, he's really supportive of the program. They basically go back to Mike and say, what do we need to do at school so that we can achieve what we need to achieve? So I guess in 3 days, if we've made them make those decisions about life, well, that's fantastic.
So it really is about that personal development of the individual self.
Absolutely, yeah. And not only that, I guess for the Rotarians that go there, we also learn something about ourselves again while we're there. And we too learn the power of the team, and by all the clubs being there together, it reinforces that if we did a little bit more together, we'd achieve a lot more. And that's certainly one of my passions in Rotary, is to try and get the clubs doing more together. I guess there's too many walls. We need to break those walls down and pick little projects that we all agree on and really get some traction and get some stuff done.
Wonderful. Look, it's been wonderful to talk with you. Thank you so much for sharing your time, and thank you so much for giving your energy to the community.
Yeah, thanks, Mel. Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, have a good day.
Thank you.
Well, it's a big weekend, the Ekiden weekend. E-K-I-D-E-N, I think I've got the correct spelling, have I?
Yeah, I think you did quite well there. Well done.
Rob Doherty is with me, he's the race organiser, and it's a big weekend. It involves a bit of everything, doesn't it? It's got a bit of culture, overseas culture, it's got a bit of colour, it's got a bit of fancy dress, but also got a bit of athletic aspect to it.
It's got the whole mix. It's got the entire package. I have to say, I put on maybe 10 events a year, and this is the one that I have the most fun at. It's just a riot. There are people up the sharp end. There are guys who are going for a real good time, who are trying to knock out what is an exact marathon distance in about 2.5 hours for those teams. But the majority of people are just out there to have. We call it the best day out that you can have with your mates.
We
and that's
remember
exactly
it
what
last
is.
year, and it certainly was colourful. And I remember filming it last year, and the people in terms of the teams, it was just a riot some of the times.
Yeah, I mean, there are some team names which we have all the team names printed on the race numbers, and there are some that are hilarious, but unfortunately I can't repeat them on television.
Some of them are not broadcast.
They are not broadcast quality.
But there you go. A little bit of a background of Ekiden, because it has a Japanese origin, and it's sort of based on that, isn't it?
That's right. The Ekiden is hugely popular in Japan. They have a famous Ekiden. It's not always the marathon distance. They have Ekidens of up to 80 to 100 kilometres over there, and they will have a TV audience in the millions and people crowding the streets to watch them. It's a huge, huge event. So a great cultural thing and a great thing for us to bring here.
It's passing something on, isn't it? It's like a baton, but it's not.
Yeah, so the main difference between it and just a standard relay is that you wear a sash. It's called a tasuki. And so the sash is passed from person to person. Now, they've got a good story about the sashes, actually, because we did reuse the sashes in the past, and that meant that the race director had to launder them after the event.
Yes.
But this year, for the first year, we've got a special take. We had special tasukis made, and they're in beautiful silk fabric, and the teams will get to take those home at the end. They get to take them home with their sweat. Yeah.
Fair enough, too. And I gather that at the end of everything, those that finish get a medal, too.
Yes, we have. I mean, I think that, the key thing is that, you don't need to run a marathon for it to be a serious achievement. The people who are out there tomorrow, out there this weekend, will have run 5 to 8 kilometres, and for some people that is a marathon, and I think it's appropriate that we give them something to take home and to remember, and and show your mates and say, yeah, I did that. Yeah. And you know what? You don't need to tell them that you only did part of a marathon. You just say, I did the Ekiden Marathon.
That's right. Or we did it. That's right. After this, what's next for running events?
Well, we have a corporate 5K run series around the country, and that's in November. But the big one for us is the Rotorua Running Festival, coming up on 22nd and 23rd of November. We held that for the first time last year. We had just over 1,000 people. We're hoping to get 1,200, 1,300 there, and I think that's going to be a really great weekend.
Well, congratulations on this weekend's event. It's a pleasure to have you back in town. I guess we can look forward with bated breath to 2015.
Yes, and I'm just hoping we'll add another 25% on top again. Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, it's a pleasure.
Cheers.
Looks like a great time was had during the Ekiden Rotorua Marathon held on Saturday. To contact City News, phone 07 3488 984 or email news@tvrotorua.co.nz. Thanks for joining us tonight. From all the team here at City News, ko Maria.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.